everyone. Thank you for joining me today. This is Ashley Tucker for My Favorite Things. Today I'm taking a little break from Christmas cards and I'm making a card that's just for fun. This is a card that I think could be used for many different occasions. Now, I'm definitely a cat person. I love dogs. I think that they're really cute. I just definitely, cats are my people. So when I saw this new stamp set called Catitude, I just kind of melted immediately. I think that these cats are so adorable. I did almost turn today's card into a Christmas card using these cats. You definitely could use this stamp set for Christmas cards. Just use a Christmas sentiment and maybe some Christmassy colors, and that would make a nice Christmas card with some cats on it. But I, in the end, decided to go with some different colors and a kind of basic sentiment to make a card that could be used for multiple occasions. So I picked out 3 of the cats from the stamp set as well as 2 of the little accessories. I stamped them with a Copic-friendly black ink onto some Neenah Classic Crest Silver White cardstock, and I'm coloring them in with my Copic markers. As always, I do have the marker caps off to the side so that you can see all of the colors that I used. Now, I did color in all 3 of these cats, but in the end, you'll see that I only used 2 of them for my card. That's just the way that it worked out. I didn't really have a card in mind when I started coloring these. I just knew that I wanted to use these images. And then when I started actually coming up with the design and laying it out, I realized that the design only called for 2 of these cats. 3 of them would have been a little bit too crowded. Of course, I'm not going to throw away that little black cat because he's super cute and he's already colored in, so I might as well keep him. I have a little stash of colored in images that I keep, and then I can use them on future cards that I want to make really quickly, or I could throw them on tags. Once all of those images were colored in, I used the coordinating dies to cut them out, and then I pulled out some patterned paper. I've been really loving this pad of patterned paper lately. This is called the Joyful Plaid pad of patterned paper, and I picked out one of the patterns from that for my card, and I cut it down to be just a little bit smaller than 5.5 by 5.5. I made a card base which is 5.5 by 5.5, and then I adhered my patterned paper onto that card base. Next, I took another panel of cardstock, which is cut to 5.5 by 5.5, and I cut a very large circle out of it using just a basic circle die, and I am adhering a piece of acetate to the back of that because I'm going to be making a shaker card. Whenever I make a circular shaker like this, I always do my foam tape the same way. I start out with a really long piece of foam tape like this, and I fold it in half so that it's doubled up in thickness, and then I cut a really thin long strip from that. Once you have your really long strip of doubled up foam tape, you're going to take the backing paper off of both sides, and then you're going to curve it around the edge of that circle. Now, my strip was not quite long enough to make it all the way around this circle, but that's okay. All I did was cut another strip and try to line it up as best as possible. And you just want to make sure that there's no gaping holes there for the shaker bits to get out of. Once I have a perfectly enclosed border around that window, I added some doubled up foam tape to all of the corners so that it is all even. And then I'm going to pick out some shaker bits for the inside of my shaker. I did find in my stash these little half pearls, which actually perfectly match the background. So I added a few spoonfuls of those, and then I added some clear sequins, some yellow sequins, and some clear micro beads. Now, I did take the ridiculously long time of turning every one of those half pearls over so that the flat side was down. And I do think that that's worth it because they look a lot better in the shaker that way. They do tend to stay on the side that they start on once they're enclosed in there. So I kind of recommend doing that even though it does take quite a while. I closed that shaker up with the window really tight, making sure to really press down on all of that adhesive. And then I grabbed this alphabet die set. This is the In Stitches lowercase alphabet die set. I cut out the letters to spell the word meow, and then I stamped a sentiment. Now this sentiment comes from the same Catitude stamp set. I stamped it with Versamark ink on black cardstock, embossed it with a white embossing powder, and then I cut it out with a stitched sentiment die. I did use some scissors to cut the one side of the sentiment so that it is a straight edge, and I popped that sentiment up with some foam tape, and then I popped up each of the letters for the word meow over the top of that sentiment. I then grabbed the 2 cats that I'm going to be using on this card, and I am popping those up with foam tape as well. But the 2 accessories that I'm using, the little yarn ball and the mouse, I decided to kind of play with dimension a little bit and not pop those up, and instead I used a liquid adhesive. I really like how the cat on the top kind of looks like he's jumping up to follow that mouse around the circle. I think that these images worked really well with the circular frame. I used a white gel pen to add some highlights to the colored in images, and then this card needs just one more thing, and I decided to do something a little bit different than what I normally do. Normally I would have added some sequins or embellishments, but instead I went with these cute little paw prints from the stamp set. I stamped the paw prints using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then there are some dies in the coordinating die set that cut the prints out. Once I cut those out, I glued them around the sentiment just like I would with regular embellishments. And I just absolutely love the way that those turned out. And here you can see the shaker card completed and all of the little shaker bits moving around inside. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you really enjoyed today's card design and that it gave you some inspiration. I hope you have a wonderful day today, and I'll see you next time.